This is Rafael Serrato.
And this is P. Fernando, 27.
And this is the Subculture Times podcast on Life is Strange. So, welcome to the Subculture Times podcast that has not been around for, I believe, 2-3 years? But
it hasn't been around for 2 or 3 years for a very good reason.
Yes, and a good reason is bringing it back, because we're talking about the last episode of Life is Strange. A game that took us by surprise. Wouldn't you say?
Not really.
Well, I mean, not the last episode, but the game itself.
The only surprise was that I actually enjoyed it. That was a real surprise right there.
That is a surprise coming from Fernando. Yes, agreed wholeheartedly.
I'm kind of open-minded, so I don't like to close my options to things. I'm that kind of person, It's really enlightened kind of person I am.
Yeah, right. Okay, so for those who don't know, Life is Strange is a sort of telltale games where you make your own choices in this narrative that's been given to you, and rather than a typical telltale game where you play like as a person in a post-apocalypse or you're fighting something, you're put in the life of high school girls, and that's what's one of the weird things coming into it. I thought I could not get into. I thought it was a everyday life game, there's an everyday life animes, but I was taken aback by how weird and different this story actually was.
From the trailer, I mean, you can see from the tornado, and they kind of hint at supernatural things, even though it's never touched upon later. It's just there's supernatural things that you kind of, some shows they'll say something anything about them. They won't say anything concrete, but
it
has supernatural elements.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but there was nothing near the end at all. It kind of really upset me. I was like, what the fuck?
Well, I mean, let's talk about episode 5 first. Just finally got released, and it ended the series.
It was kind of cliche, but it's kind of difficult for time manipulation kind of stories. They usually always end in either of these two manners, either you're never born, or no, what was the other one? Usually that's the first one. They usually just kill themselves, or you usually have to go to the beginning, and practically, everything's reset. So it's kind of cliche in those two things.
Yeah, definitely.
You can't really do much. You can't really do much about that.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, spoiler alert. This whole episode will be spoiler alerts, but in this last episode, everything we built up for, as Fernando mentioned, kind of does get reversed if you choose one of the options. But then again, one of the options at the end, for the ending, has the town of Arcadia destroyed. As, to fix, because Max's powers kind of broke
the fairy tale ending.
I don't know about fairy tale. Alright, so tell us about the ending you chose, Fernando. At the end, Chloe...
The realistic ending?
The real, quote, realistic.
The one that's not a sociopath ending?
Okay, so in Fernando's ending, well, first let's set it up. Chloe and Max are on top of the hill next to the lighthouse, and the tornado is coming toward Arcadia Bay, impending doom, ready to destroy the town. But then Max is given this choice to go all the way back to the very beginning. And so you're given a choice to either let the tornado hit or go back to the beginning and have Chloe die. And Fernando, tell us about your ending.
Could you tell us? I'd like to hear about your ending first.
Okay.
In detail, what happens? In detail, please.
Okay, so let's give a little background info.
It's gonna be good
because Max's powers has brought this impending doom toward Arcadia Bay, and it takes the form of a tornado. So by the end of the game, she's warped time so much that the tornado is coming. It's already that close to Arcadia Bay, and rather than having to start the timeline over again by focusing on a picture and kind of zooming back to that point where Chloe was shot, I chose to have Arcadia Bay destroyed. And in the ending,
Yeah, tell us the ending.
yeah,
please.
in the ending, Chloe and Max are completely fine. The entire town of Arcadia Bay is destroyed. It looks like there are no survivors, and they drive past it in Chloe's truck.
Anything else?
That's the ending. The superb ending.
Superb ending, the delusional ending. If we're in any kind of, post-apocalyptic kind of where, we all need to work together, and you see Serrato, you should probably shoot him first, because he'll kill, he'll put your entire lives at risk, your family's lives, just for one person. That's, I don't know. To me, that seems like kind of like a sociopath. I don't know. But that's just me. I don't know. I just, Chloe, that's her name, right? Chloe?
Yeah, Chloe.
She kind of seemed like she came to an understanding and wanted it. It was Maxine who was being selfish, and it seems like a sort of a selfish kind of choice, and like you're not thinking about Chloe at all. I mean, that's what I think.
No, definitely it is selfish. But I mean, the entire game, the entire 5 episodes, Max
It's a valid ending, since
Sure.
there's like alternate timelines or whatever. So I mean, it could happen. So it's not valid, but I mean, still, I think it's still BS.
I have to disagree with you right there, because let's look at the entire game from a perspective of high school. High school is a tough time for a lot of these kids. Kate was
For
bullied.
like losers like Serrato.
Kate was bullied. That
Can't help it.
purple haired chick was bullied. Victoria was like the absolute queen bee, and she kind of spat down on everyone. However,
She was being bullied herself.
yes, she was by herself because she was so insecure. But
Nah, I
but
don't think so.
I'm bringing this up because the ending where the tornado hits Arcadia Bay is extremely thematic and ties everything in, because high school, growing up, moving on is the central theme of this game. Even though she tries to shift time, she tries to make
That's
things right.
Serrato. Moving
She
on.
moves
Moving
on. Yes, moves on. She doesn't go back. She can't fix everything. And what
That's the main point.
and what symbolizes moving on than this tornado? Everything that's culminated to that point hits Arcadia Bay, and it's all been for Chloe. Everything Max has done has been for Chloe, because in the first 10 minutes of the first game, she's killed by Nathan, or she's shot by Nathan. And she spends 5 whole episodes trying to help her, trying to bring her. She helps her, and that causes a string of events to essentially have other ways for her to get killed.
I think it's more of a story like she was gonna die, but it's sort of like you're giving you're giving a lot of chances, but it's like kind of a second chance to say goodbye to someone, and I think at the end Chloe's like that's how it's supposed to be, like that's like her destiny, I think. But yeah, with time traveling powers, I mean, it's a valid alternate kind of ending. It's as valid, but I think it makes more sense, because I think she realized that she wasn't really. I think the whole thing is about like trying to like let her go. I think like a second chance, like those movies, like they have like an angel, and then like they see what their lives would have been or something, like they're trying to move on. I got a kind of vibe like that. So I thought, and I think she like understood like her parents loved her, and David, that's the guy's name, like he wasn't a total dick, and she's like she doesn't feel like total shit at the very end. I think she goes, she, I don't know how did she die? You don't say nothing, Oh, well, she goes back in time.
Yeah, she goes back in time to the very beginning, and then in the bathroom,
in the
Max doesn't interfere.
Yeah, and I was like, did you like push her off the cliff or nothing? But not, but you go back in time.
Yeah, she looks at the photograph.
So I mean, it's still like that's like kind of fork in the road right there. Like she goes back in time, and the other one you stay at the lighthouse. So I mean, it's kind of, but it's possible, but I still think it's selfish. I think
to stay there and continue with Arcadia Bay destroyed. That's what you mean. It's selfish, right?
Yeah, I think that's selfish.
But the entire story was this idea of being
about
selfish
Chloe. Not Max.
In the end, yeah, it became
trying to help.
It became
about
trying to help.
Chloe. Trying to help.
She was trying to help everyone.
But especially Chloe, because she keeps killing herself. Because I don't know, she's like, she keeps killing herself somehow. Like, it's very upsetting. That was funny. In episode 5, where they're kind of enemies, but there's like they take it to like a whole new level. Like, she's fucking, what's that guy's name?
Jefferson?
The nerd guy, the beta guy?
Oh,
the beta guy.
Warren.
The wannabe boyfriend.
In these like delusions.
And she's fucking everybody. Yeah. And I was like, what? Like,
those are dream
That was more
sequences.
of a nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah, dream.
That's
dream or nightmare things.
I think
they didn't make sense. Honestly,
it was kind of weird and a little bit out of place. But I think what they tried to do was represent all the chaos building up to that point and how broken the timeline has become because of Max. I mean that's what I think it represents.
Well, when it comes to whatever time manipulation or whatever, you sort of get that everything is open, like anything can happen.
Right.
But it's still like it doesn't fit. It can happen, but it doesn't mean like I don't know. It doesn't feel like she's fucking everybody. I mean.
Well, again, that's fine.
Yeah, with that kind of thing, yeah, it's open for anything, but still, I mean, it doesn't fit. I think.
No, well, I don't think it was an actual timeline. It was just her. It was just her brain kind of convulsing at everything she's been through. I mean, every time she's having to use her powers in this last episode, she's always her nose is always bleeding. I mean something in her head is hemorrhaging, you know? And that could be that could just have been a consequence of her extensive use of the powers of her time abilities.
But what do you think that Chloe is such a bad person or against Maxine? Like, I don't think there was ever any real doubt, or they had like their fights, but not like, you know, I'm gonna be your enemy kind of fight.
No, there wasn't.
I didn't see why. Like, you know, when she act like that in the dream sequence or whatever, the nightmare sequence.
Yeah.
They're cool, but I didn't think they make sense.
Yeah, even the stealth section, there was like all the characters were there, and they were like saying the weirdest things. That was very close to a Metal Gear 2 moment, Metal Gear Solid 2, where everything was just out of whack and out of sync.
Yeah, but it's cool like in the presentation, but it doesn't make sense. I mean, it was confusing. I didn't appreciate it very much.
Yeah, it was a bit out of place. No, I'm not gonna argue with you there. But I mean, in its representation, I think it did a pretty good job in trying to say that everything bad is gonna happen and... Oh! Wait, hold on. Let me finish that thought. Everything bad is gonna happen and it's gonna come to a critical point.
Well, I guess trying to score the game. Since, I mean, I guess... for these narrative kind of driven games, since they are narrative driven, first of all, I mean, I think that like the ending is really like a huge chunk of how it should be rated. Um, because it's all, adding up to the ending. And
Hmm.
so, I mean, if the ending is shit, like, I feel like it really falls apart. And I wouldn't give it a high score. I mean, um, yeah, because, and I know it's episodic, but like right now I mean, it's part of the entire game. And right now, I mean, you're gonna get it like the whole 5 episodes. I mean, so
Yeah, a lot of sites have been giving
it's a
it a
single game.
pretty.
It's a single game. Even though it's episodic, but it's
No,
it's
no,
one game.
I don't think you can separate it from the other episodes. That's right about it being episodic, and a lot of sites have been giving it a pretty low score, like below average.
Um, I had a lot of fun through the first 4 episodes, but since it is a narrative driven game, and like the ending was pretty, it was cliche. I think I didn't really like I think the reason people are upset is because they thought like their actions were gonna have some sort of consequences, and it wasn't going to be choose the ending, and especially
Just a
like
natural ending
just the
from what you built up.
yes, but especially it's like the all or nothing kind of endings. Like, come on, really? I mean, I think you should have like, I mean, basic maybe 1 or 2 endings, and maybe through your options you can unlock maybe a couple more, like a third, fourth. So it's not like, kill Chloe, or like kill the town. Those sort of kind of things. Um, and it was advertised. It was a big deal
Hmm.
about the consequences. So, and I get it. It's that narrative, meta narrative, where it's they go like at the end, and it's like you reverse time, but it's still the decisions you made. That you keep those with yourself,
Hmm.
forever. So I understand that, but still, I mean, the way it's marketed as a game, not like a meta narrative, is that your actions do have consequences building up to the end, and everything at the end it didn't really matter. Nothing's ever touched upon, and you either kill everyone, so it doesn't matter, or you can just kill Chloe, and everybody else is fine. So
But
I guess that's one reason.
But that's the problem with these kind of narrative games. I mean, if you look at the first Walking Dead game, that only gets points because it's the first one, that's the real first one of its kind to have this kind of whoa, this kind of that allows its players to say, whoa, I changed the course of the game. But if you play the second one, it's exactly the same as the first one, and the only difference at the
Does
end.
the I haven't played. Well, I kind of played, but I never finished it. Does the endings do you choose them, or are they a product of the choices you made?
It's an illusion of the product of the choices you make because your decisions in the game affect those around you. They're like, hey, you didn't help us last time, so I'm not going to be here this time. But regardless of what you choose, the second game is going to begin exactly the same for everyone else, except like there'll be a few key characters that aren't there, but they'll still have that main storyline with the same main characters. They're there. Only very little is actually changed. I mean,
Well,
it
I
is
mean,
amazing they brought all that data from the first one into the DLC that was like kind of in between, and then the main game for part two. But nothing really changes. And at the end of part two, you're also given that kind of choice. I mean, there's more choices. It branches off into two people, and then between those two people, you have two choices to stay or leave. Kind of very similar to this. But in the end, it doesn't matter either. I think only the very first Walking Dead game has that initial impact because it was first. Even the Game of Thrones game, it doesn't have an impact because it
well, I
doesn't
mean,
impact the canon. It's a side story that doesn't really quite matter.
I think well, like an earlier one would be, I guess, a Mass Effect one, and well, we know how that ended,
Oh
but
man, Mass Effect One,
um,
so bad. No,
I like
even
it.
before that, it was pretty cool. I mean, it was a really big game
But
on
in
the
terms of
360.
like, I guess that's ambitious because I think they announced it maybe, or it was very early on, that it was going to be a trilogy, and so it wasn't just like this one game. It was like it was gonna span over like two, or I guess three. I guess you count it, 3 games. So for the choices, especially like all the way to the end. I
Oh
mean,
yeah, the famous
you know,
Mass Effect 3 ending.
yeah.
Yeah, it's very. I
It's
guess
just I
it
guess the way
can
they
be similar to
advertise,
that.
But even you know what, for games that are advertised as, you know, your choices will, affect the outcome. I don't think any of them really it matters. There was the other one, DSX Human Revolution, had that sort of system. Um, and again, it's marketed that way, that your choices, it's gonna affect the outcome. But at the end, it's just it doesn't matter what you do, or like how passive or aggressive you are, or the method you took. All the endings are available. At the very least, I think they should either unlock or lock some endings depending on your playstyle or your choices. I think at the very least they could do that. I think it would have been, scored better.
See, this is where I'm thinking about a game that everyone laughed at, but it compared to these games, it did consequence right.
What game?
Fable 3. People got
Mm-hmm.
angry well, Peter Molyneux, I will admit, he does tend to exaggerate his he exaggerates what his games want to be. And it's true, there's no doubt there. But the idea of
Yeah.
consequence is a lot stronger in a game like Fable 3 than it is in all these newer games. Cuz in Fable 3 you had a choice. It's very much like it's very much either just a kind of like the paradigm shift where it's either good or all bad, but it's still much more effective because it's a lasting effect. In one of the choices, you have the option of shutting down the child labor factory, or and turning it into
Mm-hmm.
an orphan or like a school, or keep it going. But by keeping it going, you have all these people working for you, and your kingdom earns more money. But by shutting it down, you're risking that lack of wealth for a better citizenship, a happier citizenship in your kingdom. And then you see this throughout the entire game. It's not just this little part. It plays a bigger role, even though it wasn't really fully fleshed out. It plays a big role that games like The Walking Dead or Tesla's Walking Dead or
Does it? Well, I guess for gameplay that's pretty good. Um, but I think those Fable games, though, they're always again marketed that way as well,
Mhm.
as your choices
Yeah.
affecting the ending of the game. Did that affect the ending of the game? Was anything locked or unlocked, or how was the ending?
The ending does a very similar thing to like the all or nothing, but it depends on how you built up your kingdom. Because I believe if you didn't have enough gold or enough manpower to stop the incoming threat, then everyone in your kingdom is going to be dead and your streets will be completely empty.
Oh, yeah,
There was
that
this
makes
choice you
sense.
had to make between like amassing all these funds and all these and an army, I think. And if you didn't have that, then by the time you entered the last phase of the game, you would be the only one left alive. You'd fight off the bad guys and you'd be the only one left. I think
Well, I
that's a
don't know
lot.
how was that difficult?
No, it wasn't difficult. You just had to like kind of grind out to get your gold. I mean, again, it wasn't fully fleshed out, but I'm saying the consequences of these choices to amass gold, to amass army versus happiness of your citizens has a has in a bigger picture has a stronger weight than these choices in these Telltale games or these narrative games where you press A or X to decide what to do next.
There was a lot of choices in Life is Strange, but I think the only one that really mattered, like the only one I think you would try to alter time was for what was that, the Christian girl,
Yeah, Kate, when you had to save her.
Kate. That was pretty much it. I mean, anything else, like watering the plant, or I don't know, forgetting something, or
Yeah.
like stopping somebody getting like a paper ball thrown at them, those were very inconsequential. I, I think a lot of people worried about those.
Oh yeah, you'd see people just like
Yeah,
replay it just to
so
see what happens.
that again, people were like, yeah, it's upsetting because again, the way that's marketed, and really, all of them were marketed that way. I
Hmm.
don't think they ever, like anyone ever really has the games ship out the way that they're marketed.
But the
Maybe
reason it's
maybe we shouldn't expect it. I
inconsequential.
mean,
Yeah, I'm saying the
yeah.
reason it's inconsequential is because we've seen it before. Walking Dead, even if someone dies, that weight of someone dying is supposed to quote be heavy. It's supposed to be like a weighty decision. But in the grand scheme of video games, it's very much like someone getting a paper ball thrown at them like at Life is Strange. It's that kind of thing. It barely affects the
But it's
story. And the only thing that they do is say, "Hey, you let that person die," and then you're supposed to feel a little bit bad. That's the consequence of these kind of games.
in terms of that, if it was like within a series, I would understand. But these are across different games. You know, Mass Effect, Fable, and Life is Strange, and DSX, and each one of them, you're always like, okay, this is the one. This is the one where my choices matter. But like every time, I mean, they and when you get to the ending, it's pretty much like you choose the ending, and it was supposed to be the way you play the entire game, which at least gives you certain options.
Yeah, that's
Um,
true. That's true.
so that's what's upsetting. It's sort. I mean, it's saying like, oh, you didn't have to grind because, like you said about that factory, maybe it didn't matter. Like you could just grind your way, or you could just keep them like this never touched upon again. So you give up like the easier parts of the game, and it may be more frustrating, but you're saying, okay, it's gonna be worth it because I'm gonna get a better ending, like or a happier ending.
Yeah.
But all the endings, they're right there for you to choose, and I think that's what your efforts are sort of like useless. I think so. People are upset about that.
I think it's really tough to avoid having all these consequences pile up because I mean if we look at I mean you're just talking but we look at the history of these games that's what they give us at the end. It's either A or B. And we have to choose one of them. We can't see what this had in effect. And then I Mass Effect 3 did have that DLC
Oh
update, but
yeah, yeah, that's a good one.
let's
What did it
let's
say?
be real and it doesn't really add anything.
You can continue Mass Effect's what is it, Mr. Shepard's story with DLC. That's a good one.
Uh
That was great.
yeah, it doesn't really add much. I mean, it's there at least. But I mean, is that the fault of
It
Life is Strange, the last episode?
that if you're going to market it that way, then people are going to expect it, and if you don't deliver on that, then it is. I think so. But I mean, like I said, you all those other games that have come before it, they've all, end the same way. The options are there, even though your efforts are supposed to give you certain outcomes, like at least lock something or unlock something through all your efforts. I mean, you're gonna put extra hours to grind something, or maybe you want to take the easy route, and you're like, okay, you know what, I took the easy route, so I guess I can't do this, it's a negative consequence, but that effort that you put in is just thrown out, and everything is there, and you're like, oh, what the fuck, I could have had
Yeah.
everything. So it's they're wasting effort here, and that's why people are upset. But if you're going to market it that way, if you're gonna market it, people are going to expect that, and if they don't get what those expectations are met, then of course they're gonna give it a negative review.
See, that's why I chose the Destroy Arcadia Bay ending. Because at least that way, all these choices you made, they happened. they were real. They weren't rehearsed. Like, what would happen if Max went back in time all the way from the beginning? She knew everything that was gonna happen. So everything like with Victoria and the paint spilling on her, all that is not real anymore. But the fact that you get to choose this other ending where everything's destroyed, that shows, or to me, that shows that all your consequences have built up to this moment, and you're still willing to go through with your consequences. I know it's just a choice,
For
A or B choice.
Yeah, that was good. I mean,
in regards to the theme and the story, not the actual gameplay.
Your efforts are recognized in that ending and the I guess the more good ending, I guess, for like Chloe dies and everybody else is safe.
Where
the efforts
where people say
Mm-hmm. So
that's why I chose that ending, because at least in regards to its themes, I thought that held a lot more weight. But that, oh man, when I saw the sacrifice Chloe, I was like, oh, this is the sellout ending, absolute sellout.
Sacrifice Chloe? Nah, man, everyone's safe. I mean,
I mean,
come
man.
on. I think at the end she doesn't completely hate everyone, and she loves her mom. She doesn't.
Yeah, she even reconciled a little bit.
The dad, and I think she feels like her life isn't shit. She had people that loved her, and she doesn't want everyone else to die. I mean, it's more like respecting Chloe's wishes. So that's why I chose it. That's why I chose it.
Oh, it'd be funny, the DLC where they add a 6th episode and everything's just a dream.
I mean, you could do that.
Everything's just a dream, and then all that stuff never happened.
All that stuff never happens, and then you see that blue butterfly, and then it ends, and like, what happened? What's going on? And like another Life is Strange 2. Like, come on, give me a break. It was the whole game. It was very mellow. It was very chill. I liked it. Usually play like more core games. They're very intense. So every now and then, a game like this, like I appreciate it. It's just something to unwind. There's no pressure at all.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean,
so
along with that,
I enjoyed it. Most throughout the whole game, I enjoyed it. But since it's a narrative-driven game, and I mean, I felt like the ending was weak. And the way it was advertised, again, right now, I think it's something to be expected about those kind of games, the way they're advertised. But since they're like different kind of games, I guess I was expecting more, like for my choices to be recognized as something for the ending. But I mean, right now, I mean. I think I'm very upset because of that.
No, the whole experience was like overall, not just looking at the last episode, was really good. Overall, was really good for me. You don't see too many games that tackle a lot of the issues that this one is looking at. Bully did a good job too. I thought, like, tackling like these kind of issues with domestic abuse. And
that was a very lighthearted game, even though it's somewhat more kind of mature. It was very more lighthearted.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, that's like another game that kind of touched on this more personal aspect of growing up, and especially in the modernity of the era. People are having trouble with personality issues growing up in high schools, and what's tolerated and what isn't. I think this is a really, really unique game for our age today.
Yeah, I think it was pretty good in how it touched upon that the struggle in high school for kids. I think it would be better if I guess it was longer, maybe perhaps, and they focus more. Maybe have like the episodes. I mean, and maybe if they make another game, be different people, so you sort of get an understanding for the typical people around schools. Like was Victoria?
Yeah.
She's a douchebag. right?
Yeah.
But she had her
Yeah.
own problems and this like insecurity, and like it could help like people in real life. Like they're people can be more understanding at at the very least, even if they don't agree with something, they could try to be a little bit more understanding, and I think that would be nice.
That's what they're gonna do with Life is Strange 2. No, I hope they leave it as is.
This is the first game, right? Don't nod, whatever.
They did Remember Me.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
I have that game.
Which is how they yeah, I got it too on the Humble Bundle. But it's funny because they said that's kind of like how this game came up in regards to filtering what happened in the truth with her superpower, with her rewind power.
Yeah.
Because that's what you did, right? You have to kind of decode what happened on a scene. Like
No,
a detective.
you alter memories. It was kind of it was really out there. 'Cause, I mean, you could like grab someone, right? And you alter their memories, so maybe like you meet them like 10 years prior, and you're friends, and then when you meet them again, they're like, "Oh, you've been my friend for like 10 years. It's good to know you again. Let's join teams. We'll be they won't be your enemies." And I was like, "Wow, that's pretty out there." To be able to
that's
on the
crazy.
fly, just like you go in there and you do like kind of little scenarios. It was interesting. Haven't beat it, but it didn't get that a lot of high scores. Like there were like 7 or something. But it was really cool how you could manipulate memories. So yeah.
All right, let's see. We talked about the game. Talked about.
Well, so
kinda like
I mean,
the
so
story.
far, I guess we could talk about the scoring system. I mean, why it was scored that way. Again, it goes back to it's a narrative based game, and I guess the ending. I mean, it really matters. So I guess that's why. I mean, I guess people were upset, um, because I guess they felt all their effort they put in, all the kind of moral, choices that they had to make, that were like difficult. Like, oh man, what the hell do I choose? They were really sweating it, and to get to the end and realize that as far as consequences, like what kind of ending you chose, it was all there. So the effort was kind of wasted there. I guess that's why.
Yeah, no doubt.
I think that even if they had perhaps like instead of the two choices, if they had some other choices, either way, I think people still would have had a negative view on it because of that the way that you get to the ending, like that it doesn't matter all that effort. So even if they had like maybe happier or I don't know different kind of endings, the fact that everything's there, like you just choose A or B, it's very upsetting. I think so. I think that's one of the reasons.
But even so, if they somehow manage to incorporate all those choices, then the way I see it be summed up would be just little stories about what happened next. Oh, and then Victoria became a nice girl after this. The Witcher does something very similar. The Witcher 3 at the end, the choices you make, you get a solid ending, and then there's like four different endings, maybe more. No, I think there might be over 30 with like little variances. But at the end, after you get the main ending, you're given little snippets of what the Witcher's doing with his life after the game.
Oh, that's pretty good.
They'll say, oh, he's with his romance, and every now and then he'll go out and complete a contract on a monster, but he always has a home here, and his friends over here. It talks a little bit about what happened with the world.
Yeah.
How else
good.
could they have done? I mean, would they have done that? I don't know if it would work, because the whole time they're teasing even from the first episode they tease the super tornado in the beginning.
I I don't think like at the ending, like the very end, they have to bring it, but I think they could like before. Yeah, I mean, you get to the ending, you sort of get little snippets, just little ones. So like, oh, she was a good friend, and you see this, and like she was selfless, and you see it, just a little snippet like that, like here and there, here and there, here and there, and then like you see, um, like some sort of choices like based on that. It doesn't have to be like that, like you at the very ending, like I guess post credits or
Yeah.
credits, but like leading up, just little bit of snippet, like she was a good friend, and you see like just a flash of that choice you made, and that's it. I think they could have done it that way.
But that'd be harder because the way they had they showed memories was those little photographs, and then it would change when you made a big decision. And I mean, how it'd be really tough because let's see, one
You just
time
put
you
like
get to
what? Like you just put like a point system, like a moral point system, so you get like a
no,
better.
I don't want to do that.
I mean, you wouldn't see the points obviously, but like like you could do like the memory thing, like just like that, and then like it would have just like you see the good things, and then like if depending on the good or bad things, just like the little photos right there, and then you're at the lighthouse, and you get I don't know whatever kind of choices based on your rating. They're not gonna say the rating, but it's like sort of they would have a rating, you know.
I don't know because if they had any other ending besides those two, then the hurricane, the tornado would have been completely for nothing.
I mean, yeah, that's where those kind of
Because if you think about it, there's only two things that could happen with a tornado. It either hits or it doesn't. And had it hit, all those choices, regardless if they fixed them or not, they still happen. It still mattered, but the tornado hit. And then like the ending they had, if the tornado didn't hit, it's because they had fixed it already, but at the consequence of Chloe's death.
yeah. I mean, I think either that or they could have like based on the how selfish or selfless you act. I mean, it could have been one of those two, and I mean, I think that would have been better. Or maybe it's still like she dies, or she doesn't, but maybe you get to see other people live. Um, I mean, like they didn't have to kill everyone. I think you could have had like
Oh,
slightly more people not dead.
I have a question. Do you think the game would have been better if they forced you into one of those decisions based on your choices in the past?
How?
Because remember in the episode where Chloe's in the wheelchair because of her accident,
Yeah.
and then some people chose when she asked, they chose to kill her or they didn't, and I see that as a very similar premise to what the ending had. But if the ending wasn't up to choice and it was forced on you based on your decisions like that, and saving Kate, like saving people, sacrificing yourself or sacrificing others for what you want, that selfishness, do you think it would have been better even if it was the
Uh,
same two endings, if they forced you into one of those endings?
oh, based on your choices, like if you get
Yeah.
a
If
moral plus or negative points, something like that.
like whether I don't know if I should call it moral more or less, but the types of choices, like whether they're selfish ones or whether they're ones where you kind of sacrifice something for someone else, like the paint. Remember when Victoria gets paint on her?
Oh
You
yeah.
you take a picture, but you can choose to delete it. So if you delete it, and you get like let's say selfish less points, then that would go to your ending where you sacrifice Chloe. What do you think of that?
Well, I guess I think with that, I think people would have been happier since that's the way it was marketed. They could be upset, but I think they would have been they it would I think it would have been it would have given more incentive to do it over. They would and try to get it that good ending. So at the very least, there's some replay value for that. But for let's say, hmm,
Well, I mean, looking back at,
I think honestly, I would have been happier because, I mean, I chose all more selfless kind of or positive kind of
yeah, this guy
choices.
killed Chloe,
So
ladies and
I think
gentlemen.
I
When she, when
hell
she
yeah,
asked,
out of
when she
respect
asked,
for human life, human decency, I
doesn't even
get
think
that.
of the parents or
Hey
anyone
man,
else.
she can be angry at me. She can be angry at me. That's okay. That's okay. Anyways, I think I think more people would have been happy.
Yeah,
Some
I could see that
people
happening.
they might have acting like douchebags, and I think they would have like realized like okay that's the kind of thing. I think ultimately the way people either way the way people that play it, I think if you were kind of forced into it, I think they would be more understanding, and
Perhaps,
if they
yeah.
want the other one, they could have done it again. It's good at least for replay value at the
Yeah,
very least.
because thematically speaking, I am absolutely in love with the idea that in my playthrough I didn't kill Chloe when she asked to turn up the morphine, and the fact that Max had to, and the fact that Max
What did you say, Serato?
didn't kill her.
You said like I killed I killed Chloe and I didn't inform any of the parents, but you killed the parents in the whole town.
Ha!
Yeah, that's a good one.
Wait. The fact that Max or the Max I played didn't kill her or didn't turn up the morphine, and it goes so well with the idea that she sets everything in motion to always help Chloe. She wanted to bring back her dad, but realized that this future was much worse, so she goes back even further. And then at the end, when you get that tornado decision, it's once again, you're making the same exact decision as you have before. It's just on a grander scale.
It's consistent. It's consistent, but I don't think that it. She doesn't. There's a lack of development right there, and I think that's what makes it better a choice. That like she understands, and for Chloe too, she develops as a character. She's not like this fucking pissed off, nobody loves me, fuck the whole world kind of Chloe. She's a more understanding person, and she realizes there's people that love her. So I think that's kind of like the two choices right there. So I mean that's why I chose the other one because I think it's more understanding and more respectful towards Chloe. The other one is consistent, but I mean I don't think there's like a lack of development right there.
Yeah, that's true. She definitely is okay with the idea by the end, but if you look at the other ending, she's also okay with it. By the time they drive off, I mean, they're both extremely sad. There is no doubt about, what they've lost. But they pick up the truck and move on because there's nothing else left at Arcadia Bay.
That's like really quick. Like they just drive by the town. Like,
Yeah,
oh,
they
everybody's dead.
leave, have one longing last look, and then they're gone.
They don't look for survivors. They don't look for their mom and dad. The dad's still gonna be alive. He's in that bunker.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, if there was this option for those who don't know, where if you talk to Chloe's stepdad in the bunker after he comes in and saves Max, if you tell her that Chloe's dead, he'll actually shoot Jefferson while he's tied up. But I thought, hey, if he's still down there when all this is going down, then he'll be fine. So I might as well tell him the truth, like in case if anything happens. Like he'll know what happened, but everything will be dead, so it kind of balance out because the whole town was destroyed. Or maybe not.
Yeah, I guess. Well, I guess since they give you an all or nothing kind of thing, it doesn't really make sense for there to be or show people that are alive, so that's why it was like that. But still, I mean, you could have like shown them, like looking for people, like their mom or Warren, or the dad at least.
I think they wanted people.
But I mean, I understand it. Yeah, I understand
think
it. But it's still...
I think the developers wanted people to feel bad about like the choices they will have to make because they kept saying, you have to make the right choice, Max. You have to make the right choice. They were kind of egging you.
Yeah. Well, since we touched upon like the kind of reason behind the low scores. I haven't checked the scores. What kind of scores did they get?
Ah, man, pretty bad, pretty bad. Like sixes and sevens. A lot of sixes I saw, like 60% and stuff.
Was what I wanna, I don't know if it's how hard it is or how long it would take, but what I want to know is what I'd like to find out is the kind of ratings they got before the final episode.
Oh, the episodes got really good
So
ratings. They got 8s and 10s and 9s.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I think that goes, with the, again, with the narrative based game right here, and especially with the, how it's advertised again, um like Mass Effect 3, I think got somewhat good.
It's
critical.
it's
I
a great
guess,
game. Even
critical
even
reviews.
despite the ending, it's still a very solid, good game.
From critics, I think it got like decent scores, but I think from gamers, it got bad scores because again, like, it's about the choices and the the narrative right here, especially this game, since it's more, it's just like narrative driven. There isn't like a lot of gameplay
Right.
here. So, I understand why individual episodes would get a higher rating than the ending, because I mean it's really about everything leading up to that ending. So I mean I understand it. I would get lower scores.
Yeah, because, well, I also want to say because of the hype. You're given 4 great episodes, previously before. And then, again, it comes down to that all or nothing kind of ending. I mean, there were some weird segments in this last episode that were totally off, like the stealth sequence and the multiple jumps. I mean, how many times did she jump in a photograph and then jumped in another photograph? And it kind of felt like it would never end until she found her way to the museum. But then again, she jumps into another photograph. And one more time, it was just all over the place. That's one of my biggest complaints for this one.
I think okay, since there's like various different games from publishers and kind of genres, where each one of them heavily advertises that choice system.
Yeah.
I think by now we should really realize that it's not technically or very something that's really, I guess, in a maybe budget wise, time wise, that's very reasonable or should really be expected. Um, I mean, it's various games. Like there's already been various games, but by now, like if any other game tells me that the choices I make affect the outcome, and especially if it's multi-tiered and episodic or trilogy or whatever, I really shouldn't expect that. So really gets my hopes down for any other games.
No,
Whichever
that's
publisher.
absolutely true, because after the first 2 Walking Dead games, or after the first Walking Dead game, immediately playing number 2 when it came out, I thought it was just another. It was just exactly the same thing as the first one, and then the Game of Thrones Telltale Games was released, and as much as I love Game of Thrones, and I read all the books that are out, and I've tried to watch all the seasons, and I keep telling you guys about it. I could not get excited about the game because it was exactly the same thing as the other ones. It's the same A/B choices all over again. Of course, the pictures are different, the characters are different, but it doesn't matter. It seems like it's not going to matter always in the end anymore.
I think for those kind of games, I think it maybe we really shouldn't expect it, because maybe it's not reasonable to expect however many choices, like especially for Mass Effect, over 3 games, all the little choices you have. Um, I guess it's not reasonable, but it's marketed that way. But I guess maybe I mean, especially now after all those kind of games, I think we should just really not expect. It should be something that's not expected, even if it's heavily marketed that way. It's upsetting because I think that's what people want. You know, sort of like for your entire the entire game to matter. I mean, and you could say, okay, like the first 4 episodes you had fun, they were rated high, but since everything culminates to a certain ending, um, it's very upsetting. So, I mean, from now on, if any game says
Yeah.
it's like all your choices matter, that's it. I'm not gonna. That's something I'm not gonna take into account if I'm gonna buy it or score it. Actually, I think.
But isn't that the
It's
yeah, when
upsetting.
a developer or a company or a new game says the choices will matter, it's gonna be exactly like BioShock Infinite. Not that you had much of a choice there, but the fact that you're always gonna be guided to one thing or the other. I think that's what.
Were there multiple
No, there
endings in
wasn't
that
multiple
game?
endings, but there was this really heavy theme about a video game giving you multiple choices or giving you the choices to make what you will of your game. However, in the end, it just leads to this very similar paths, and your choices don't actually really add up to much because they're essentially the same thing. You're either going down this way or going down that way, despite what they say you're given. Exactly what you're saying about how it culminates to nothing.
Yeah. Well, I guess maybe. Well, it's like it's upsetting, and if somebody says that, you really shouldn't. I guess take it at face
Right,
value.
no doubts.
But if that's the way it's advertised, and they don't deliver, I guess it should be uh, rated negatively. Even though if it's something that really you should be expecting now, if that's what they're advertising, and if they don't deliver, I mean, I guess it should be rated appropriately. So I think it's justified. I mean, especially the last episode.
Well, see,
So
that's
it's about the like I said, they say it's about the
yeah.
choices, and it's all about leading to the end. Like that's where the choices matter. So and if they don't, it's frustrating. It's upsetting to people, and it's gonna get low scores like it did. So I can't really blame them.
Yeah, me neither. But I still actually really liked the last episode.
I liked it, but if I were to recommend it to anyone, I'd tell them. Well, it's the kind of thing you don't really want to spoil something, but then again, they're gonna be upset at you, and especially as someone who is looking at you for advice, it's kind of difficult because you're kind of giving it away.
Yeah.
But I guess it's if it's a low scored kind of game, you should be telling them, even if it's I don't know, most of the game is fun. You should tell them, hey, the most of the game is fun, but then it sucks. Um, from a consumer standpoint, I guess you have that obligation, and it's very difficult not to be a spoiler, because even if it isn't rated highly, it might be average. So maybe they still may want it. So you still can't spoiler it. It's very difficult. Um, yeah, not to spoil something.
Well, especially when it's episodic like this, yeah, it's very tough to kind of get the word out there without.
Well, but at the end, I mean, if you kind of decide to give scores, you still gotta score it,
As it
and
stands as its
you could
own.
still praise it. You could still praise it in certain
And
ways.
you can review it
Um,
as a whole or a single entry. Because I'm sure some episodes are gonna be better than others.
Yeah, it's kind of weird though.
But then
'Cause,
again, it might be just chapters, like in a full game that you pay like your $60 up.
yeah, that's why I said it's kind of weird. Yeah, because I say chapter one is good, and everything's getting reviewed separately. Uh, but even if it's a single game, but people don't do that. It's always
No, they have.
throughout.
Yeah,
the
they
whole
have.
game.
This business has to have like the latest scores for whatever's new, whatever's out.
Yeah, so I mean it's so yeah it's I mean for this one everyone wants to review the latest episode, so they're separate, but games it's one game, so it's overall. But now that everything's complete, everything's out, I guess we really should be rating it overall. Um, I guess I mean you could be very descriptive and saying that the overall game is a very fun, very mellow, just very like it's very comfortable, comfy
Right.
kind of game. I really enjoyed it. It's a break from all those intense kind of games where you just gonna I don't know what kind of person like Metal Gear. That was a really intense
Yeah.
kind of game. But this was a very nice break. I liked it. I think we should have a lot more games like that because there's already too many intense kind of
Yeah,
games.
absolutely.
I think we need more kind of games like these. It's very welcome. I enjoyed it. But again, I mean the ending, just it was very upsetting for me. So I guess you could praise it very well. I mean, what would you score it? Like honestly, I mean, you said throughout the whole game. It was
Yeah,
pretty good.
the entire
you enjoyed it, but the ending.
all the entries themselves stand very well, except the last one. But I still like the last one. I wouldn't rate it the highest, but I still really liked it. But in the entire collection, as the entire 5 episodes, this gets like a really high score for me. It's not perfect, but I definitely recommend it, and I definitely give it a high score.
You would recommend it, Serrano? You would give it a high
Yep.
score? Would you be ready for all the naysayers
Yes,
on
absolutely.
the comment boards?
This is one of the most this is one of the most thematic
That would be good.
games that stands out throughout each episode. Even the titles for each episode is good, like Catalyst and Polarized, the very last one. Even those, even just like how much it plays on itself is really well done. And despite the the kind of average ending, cliche ending as people want to say, I thought it's a great adventure. Great adventure that's extremely unique subject matter.
If I were rating it, I mean, shoot, it's very difficult because from an initial view, I mean, the way it's scored, some people may just look at the score, and a lot of companies do for advertising or Metacritic or whatever. People just they point out the scores and they may not read it, the review. So I mean, the initial score that people see, it's gonna be very important.
Oh yeah.
So it's very difficult, especially for a game like this. I wouldn't, because the ending, I felt, especially because again, like the way of the advertising choices, and I can't really score it very favorably. I guess at the most I give it. I mean, I guess like the ending, I'm very upset.
Right. Yeah.
A lot of people are. So, I guess I think a 7.5 is the kind of score where people would actually read the review. It's the kind of score I think people will say, okay, look, I'm on the fence. It's interesting, and let me just check it out. I think if it's anything else, usually people say, "Ha, look at this, got a good score,"
comment.
and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. So I think that kind of score is the kind of score that will get people to actually read a
Yeah.
review, and they'll be more understanding. So they'll say, okay, the most of the game right here, it's very good. You know, it's a good experience, fun experience, but the ending is a bit of a letdown, and they'll be more understanding. They'll be more aware of the kind of game they're purchasing. And, I mean, in the end, that's really what you're trying to do here. It's kind of like informing people. So I would give it that score, just because I think people would actually take the time to read the review, and they will be more understanding of the whole game. You know. So I would give it like a 7.5. It's kind of like the cutoff point right there, where people actually don't say, "Aha!" You're like, "Look at this," or "Ha! Look, it just got
Yeah.
this score." I think that's the kind of score that gets people to read the review. So I would give that kind of score
Wait, was that for the series or for just the entry of episode 5?
for the series.
For the series.
For the series.
Ooh, oh man. Hmm.
Because it's not a 6, and it's not an 8.
I don't know, man.
I think a 7 is too close. A 7 is too close to a 6, I think. But a 7.5 is like, okay, let me see why I didn't get an 8 or why I didn't get a 6. If someone's interested, they'll like, okay, okay, this is why, all the reasons, and they'll be more understanding of it. I think that's a good choice, especially for this game. It's very difficult to rate it. What would you rate it? I mean, honestly, as a whole game, because now it's all out. You can. I'm not sure if you could buy it separately. I mean,
You can buy episode 1
it'd be
by
kind
itself.
of weird now.
And then you don't. Yeah,
very
you can buy
cheap.
episode 1 for like $5, and then if you want to commit later, you can purchase the rest of the episodes. Or you purchase the rest. You don't purchase them separately, but you purchase 2 to 5. So episode 1
Yeah,
has a trial.
I've seen it on the.
Kind of.
It's kind of trial. I mean, I think they kind of could have given that away, or maybe they should have done something. Like another episode, maybe just for people to try it. I don't know. It was that kind of game. Like I haven't really played this kind of game. I don't even know how long, but I liked it. So I mean, I went, and continue playing it. But I don't know about making people pay $5, especially if you can't return it. Or maybe you could just rent it. I guess. Yeah, I guess that's a good thing. I mean, you could rent it.
Yeah, I guess you can rent it.
Yeah, I guess that you could always do that. So you can.
But then
always
that
do
goes with every game, man. You can just rent a game.
Yeah.
But I don't know. This game was the whole thing, not just the last episode.
It's cheaper, I think. It'd be cheaper because $5 versus I think it's $2.50 and Redbox. I think you could beat this game
Yeah,
in
you
a
can
day.
beat it in a
I
day.
think.
Like
So,
a good 8 to 10
$2.50.
hours.
That's pretty good.
No, I wouldn't.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I feel like if there was a physical version of this game, I'd buy it. I was actually looking earlier to see if the official site had a store, but it doesn't.
Wait,
The
what?
official website for
There's if it has a website.
no, there's a website. Yeah, but I was checking if there was an official store, like a store website or a store link on the page, where you can get something.
What do you mean, like merchandise?
Yeah, like
or
a
game?
merchandise.
Oh, I don't really expect that.
Yeah,
for
but I mean
I
that's
mean, they usually have.
that's what I was
something
looking for.
else.
Just like when when there's a super cool game, I check to see if there's like a merch bag or like a messenger bag, like from Skyrim. That's like $100. I'm not gonna get it, but it's there.
Don't they usually? I mean, they have those in different kind of. It wouldn't be from the publisher, but you'll find them somewhere else, like their license. But it's not gonna be on the publisher.
I think
store.
I did see something like that earlier today. Actually, I don't know. I didn't get to check the link, but it might be like officially licensed for whatever that store was selling. but I'm not sure. But anyway, to go back to like the value of this game, I really think it should be played. It's just so unique. There aren't too many games where you have this perspective of an arts academy high school girl, and she's suddenly giving superpowers, because it hits that realm of reality with her situation in high school and pursuing art, but then it delves into that realm of video games where she's given a superpower and you're kind of in control of how you puzzle through the entire episodes. So I really think this is
honestly,
a good one to get.
For me, it wasn't so much like that, which you're talking about right now. It was more of again that choices kind of thing. Like, oh, that's gonna be great. It's 5 episodes, and I wanna see how my choices affect the outcome. I think a lot of people that tried it. I think they really, that was I think a really huge selling point. Again, that's, they're really advertising that. So I think that's why people, really, they're like, okay, this is the one, this is the game, like, about choices and consequences. It didn't really need to be about, I guess, any setting. If there's a game like that advertises that, I think it gets a lot of attention. So for me, it was about that, like choices and consequences. Like, oh, it's great. This is, all my actions are gonna matter. And that's why, for me, I was interested because of that primarily.
Yeah, but see, I feel you weren't already burnt out because of other games that were exactly the same.
The last one was. No, I mean it really was about the choices.
Because I mean, by the time I hit Walking Dead season 2 for Telltale, I was like burnt out about all this. You either save this person or you don't, and it doesn't really matter by the end.
The last game that I played, where a game was marketed that way, was 2011. That's when Deus Ex came out, and that's the way it was marketed as. Well, a lot of RPGs, I think, aren't they always sort of marketed that way? RPGs?
Not necessarily. Because, what kind of RPGs?
Maybe high profile ones.
Because I mean, if we talk about like a Skyrim and Fallout, those games, while not too deep in their end, well, Skyrim definitely not that deep in its ending because there's just one, but you have to make like one different choice. That's about it. But Fallout that has these branching paths that are definitely unique.
Fallout.
You only not work for yourself, but you can work for the Kaiser.
No, I guess our RPGs have that branching element, but they don't always culminate to that certain ending. But that's a big selling point.
Oh yeah.
Kind of branching different, whatever, like story choices or outcomes. Not necessarily the ending. Maybe I guess. As so long as you don't advertise it, that you're gonna get a certain ending.
Yeah.
I guess.
Well, I mean,
people are okay with that.
I mean, just again looking back at The Walking Dead, the first game I thought was absolutely brilliant. I'd give that a 9. A 9 out of 10. And then the second game comes around, you're absolutely invested because you want to see what happens to Clementine. And then it's exactly the same game as the first one, despite how well done the voice acting is, despite how tense scenes are with zombies and how interesting their predicament gets. It's exactly the same thing as the first one, and by that one, after playing the DLC that's supposed to be played between 1 and 2, I was already burnt out on all this kind of, you have to make your own decision. And Walking Dead 1 gets a 9, let's say a 9 out of 10 for me, and then the second one would get just a plain 7. And even Game of Thrones, as interesting as the universe is, I'd give it another 7 just because it's more the same. The 6th episode isn't even out yet, I think, and I just flat out just give it a 7.
It's not over yet.
It has 6 episodes and 5 are done.
I guess for that game, the Game of Thrones, are they gonna finish throughout the story or what?
I think the next one comes out in January. Yeah, they're gonna finish it eventually. But I mean, just my score for it standing right now is 7.
Like the whole story,
Oh, are you talking about the Telltale games?
The game? Yeah, the Telltale game. That's the one that's.
You make choices.
How's that?
A/B choices. But it's not gonna. It has its own storyline that barely touches on the main canon. So it's just like on the side. It's good. Don't get me wrong.
Side canon.
Don't get me wrong. It's not bad. It's interesting, but I'm just burnt out on those type of games. But then again, when Life is Strange hit the scene, I did not know anything about it except you played as a girl, and I thought that's why I said earlier it was a everyday life kind of game, and I didn't know it was one of these make your own decisions game. But the story itself and the idea that she could change things and change time, that brought me back into it too. And because it was so thematic the entire time, I feel like that cemented and that reinforced my ending.
Okay. All right. So we're talking about scores. I scored a 7.5. Because I felt it would make the people, read the review and get a better understanding. What would you rate it?
I'd give it a 9. The whole series, a 9.
The whole series, a 9. There was this other game that got similar scores. Yeah, I guess you're right, Serato. I would agree. So I guess we're in agreement there. As when you're putting a review out there, for people to see that 9. And then at the very end, it's like the very end, they see that sort of type of ending, and they understand, the actual importance of those decisions they make. You don't think that it would be very upsetting to see that 9? How do you think they feel about your score?
Well, see, that's the thing with that's the intrinsic thing about reviews. They're always someone else's opinion, and the fact that someone can say, I don't think this is a 9, that's their review, that's their opinion. However, as for me, the story felt complete with the choices I make. Again, I keep saying thematic because it absolutely is the entire time. Max's adventure began because she saved Chloe. And then constantly throughout the adventure, it's not just with Chloe, but she's helping people, she's saving people. But then the people that she saves that aren't Chloe, they're almost kind of like a precursor to what she's going to do with Chloe. And the fact that if your character kept saving people, if your character kept stopping bullies, or if she saved that purple-haired chick or blue-haired chick from getting hit with a football, that's exactly like Max saving Chloe in the future. It's all building up to that point. So I think the themes of this game are incredibly strong in holding its story together. That's why I think the final ending that I chose with her deciding on having to save Chloe after all these minor decisions, and even big decisions too, I think that's why it's so impactful. And the fact that I said it earlier that the restart the week is kind of a sellout ending, which I think it absolutely is still. But I can see how people can get upset at the fact that...
Well, you're kind of on your own there.
I can see how people can get upset at how the choices don't matter, or the idea that, or how they feel that their choices don't matter because it just restarts everything, which is one way to look at the endings. Because if people who chose that, I think inherently feel that their choices didn't matter because they were forced to choose that. But whereas you choose one where Arcadia Bay is destroyed, Max is finally living up to all her choices, all the wrong she did, all the right she did. She's actually living up to that moment, and she's surpassing it. She's finally letting go. But going back again, it's exactly what you said. The choice doesn't matter, so she has to restart everything. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but at the cost of human life.
Yeah, at the cost of everyone
And,
there, yeah.
There's always... I mean, it's just not... There's a lot of movies and books and whatnot where your face or the character's face with that certain thing, like, save that one person, or, you know,
Yep.
risk or for sure kill the entire town. And I think, I mean, most of the time, the character you're trying to save is more understanding. They would say, you know what, it's, you know, thank you for being my friend or whatever. And I finally understand. It's the way it has to be. And that they're more willing to sacrifice themselves. I think it's more natural than to kill an entire town. I certainly wouldn't want to kill an entire town just for me. I mean, that's me. I don't know about you, Serrato. I don't know how you would feel about that.
The way Max went about saving Chloe, she did not hold a gun and shoot everyone down. She didn't kill the town. That's how I see it.
Yes, but you do have that choice. I mean, if I was that person, I would say, you know what, thank you for being my friend. You know, whatever the last few weeks were great. I see that now and whatnot. And it's like, you know, whatever, it's time for me to go. That's how I would go about it. I don't know. I don't know how you.
I think that's the feel of the supernatural in the game, though. I mean, out of nowhere, she developed these time powers, and it's at the cost.
I understand.
Yeah, it's
that.
at the cost.
But would you do that?
It's at the cost of. It's at the cost of this town, and the fact that she goes back in time, that says more about. That says more about how unfinished the game is than, or how unimaginative the ending is if you choose to go back in time, because there's still a lot of loops, because the fact that she transfers back in time, that should still point to the fact that she messed with it, and there would still be another hurricane coming, except Chloe wouldn't be there to help. And I think we hit that point, ladies and gentlemen.
We're getting too deep. Yeah, we could for these kind of things you can certainly.
Oh yeah, definitely, absolutely.
But I guess, I mean, as someone who is coming off as, again, when people look at a score, they're you know, it's more of a consumer. You gotta see from a consumer standpoint. I guess my score, I think, really kind of forces or incentivizes the person to check out why a certain score was given, and gives you a certain, I think, a better understanding of the kind of game they want to get into. But I think a 9, I mean, it's good. I mean, I can understand it, but from a consumer point, I think they feel kind of cheated, especially towards the end. I mean, for me, I guess that's why I wouldn't give it a 9. But I can understand it, why someone would give it a
9. Well, I mean, speaking strictly from the consumer, it's...
Which is, I mean, guess kind of...
Yeah, definitely that's why reviews exist, for the consumer. That's why I like the review. That's why I like the idea of multiple reviews, not necessarily Metacritic or anything like that averages them out, but the review in general, because it's different experiences. Like with the game Rise, I got really bland reviews. You know, it was really average. People spoke about the graphics and then got bored of the gameplay, but that game is an absolute blast. I'd give that game...
Which
Rise?
game?
Son of Rome.
Rise. Okay.
I mean, people found it boring after like the first hour, but I absolutely love that game, and it's just another example of how a review is not necessarily the experience. which is a debate that's completely different. But I mean, in regards to taste of games, that also changes everything. But yeah, sum it up. To sum it up, get it, people. Get Life is Strange.
Well, I mean, for me, I guess I would say it's a very interesting experience. There are certain reasons why I want people to understand why there are very negative
Right,
reviews.
I can see that.
But I think I would also want to experience this kind of game because it's very different from the typical kind of core games right now. It was a very welcome change from that sort of lineup that I think like it's core players usually play. They're very intense. Yeah. I would want them to experience, but it's you always gotta leverage that kind of expectation, especially towards the end. So I mean, for my score, it's still a 7.5, and I think it would make for for a consumer that's more informed and more understanding of that game. That's why I would give that 7.5 rating.
Okay, fair enough. And again, we'll go to mine. Well, I'll give it a 9.
Well, that was a good discussion.
Definitely a good discussion, interesting discussion. If you made it this far and have played Life is Strange, let us know what you think about it, because we are dying to find more people to talk about this and to see if it's worth the effort and time you put in, as Fernando kept talking about, especially with your choices.
Yeah, especially from gamers and that. Typically, those critical reviews. It's always nice to hear what just the average kind of gamer has to say about that.
All right, and with that was our podcast.
If you like this, thumbs up, vote up, leave a comment, and subscribe.
Stay tuned for Subculture, folks. See you later.
See ya.